Hi, this is Virtual Jeff beaming live to you from the DieCats virtual space. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited to be part of this revolutionary symposium and to do this presentation today on what virtual reality as an art medium can offer art therapists. There's a lot to show you. In this first part, we'll be looking at the qualities that make up an accessible and expressive VR art app. Stay tuned for part 2, where specific qualities inherent within the VR medium will be explored. Now, to start, you might be wondering, what's going on here? I'm producing this presentation today from within virtual reality with an app called Spaces. In essence, it allows me to be a one-person broadcasting studio with virtual cameras, microphones, screens that can mirror my computer desktop. For example, back here, I'm beaming my desktop slideshow right to this screen behind me. And 360-degree environments with lighting that I can all position and move around in my virtual space. And right now, actually, this 360 panorama is a Gustav Klimt museum, and it's just a really awesome experience to just look around in 360 degrees and see his paintings blown up life-size in front of me. So I'm embodying a virtual representation of myself in this avatar I've created. I can interact with you through facial expressions, so maybe a little bit of this and maybe some of that. Yeah, all kinds of, how about one of those? And body and hand gestures, so I can move my arms and my hands very gesturally, my head. The equipment that I use to do so isn't some bulky abstract contraption, but rather a simple lightweight headset. And let me show you right here on my desk here, I have a 3D object that looks just like the headset I have on in real life. So if I put it over my head, this is kind of like what you do, just put it right on there. And we'll get into three-dimensional objects in a little bit, but just want to show you that. And so that fits on like a baseball cap. I have 2 hand controllers I slip on easier than a glove. So here are those guys, and these can control my hand gestures and movements. And some sensors that look like unassuming thin desktop microphones. So here are those guys, and I have these positioned in my room, and wherever I move my real body, front and backwards, up and down, and it can track me wherever I go with those sensors in the room. So getting up and running also with this equipment is as easy as setting up your iPhone. So this is definitely not your parents' VR, right? It's social, connected, creative, and accessible to everyone right now. We are now in the time of affordable and embodied immersive media. I hope to demonstrate to you today that virtual reality as an expressive and creative medium and as a concept itself is truly transformative and revolutionary, not just for our culture at large, but specifically for the arts therapies fields. What if you could take your body and senses with you when conducting a session remotely? Not just see and hear your clients on a flat screen, but feel present with them in the same 3D space. And create spatial art together that you could experience, explore, encounter, and walk around together while feeling connected and embodied. Virtual reality allows you to connect, engage, and create with clients in new ways that are truly life-altering. The strengths and unique qualities of virtual reality art making can support treatment planning, interventions, client engagement, and outcomes for a variety of populations. VR's imaginal space is a sandbox for projecting inner dynamics externally to be given form artistically, observed, and integrated. For me, this virtual form I'm inhabiting feels liberating, creative, and playful. Now, Spaces has really changed my life and allowed me to grow and see new possibilities. Broadcasting and recording content for the first time by using the tools has aided in cultivating curiosity, patience, and problem solving in the face of fear and challenge. And it has allowed for healthy risk taking and rehearsing and getting comfortable with new behaviors. And this is all here in spaces for art therapists to leverage for client growth and outcomes. So here in this slide, I've shown various options available to be expressive and artistic in spaces. And actually, now I want to show you guys a couple of other apps that are very similar to spaces. So this is one right here called Flipside XR or VR. And what it does is allow you to kind of do virtual puppeteering, which is actually embody a new self-identity representation in these avatars you can choose. And there's a various ones, and both imaginal and realistic. So, to be able to manipulate and augment and express agency over your self-identity and have that be fluid is one of the, I think, the most amazing components of using VR as a medium. And here is another example of virtual puppeteering. This one is called Mind Show, and is very similar to Flipside, where you're acting out gesturally using the equipment, your hands, your gestures of your arms and your head and your movements. And these characters will mirror anything you do. And you basically teleport into these other environments. You can choose objects. So here, if I show you guys a scene this is from Flipside, you basically have these UI interfaces that you choose props that you can populate around you. And in the environment, you could choose your environment. So here you have almost like a VR talk show that this person is selecting. And you can also notice that they have a slideshow that they're putting in, a teleprompter. So they're actually almost doing a live show here. And this is just really one of the most powerful things about the VR medium. So something that's really been fascinating to me over the last couple of years when exploring this medium is I've done a lot of exploring various different social VR apps, which are apps that allow you to choose an avatar and go into the same virtual space with others that have headsets and can actually interact with you and engage with your avatar. So what I found interesting is I've gone to various different ones. And so, for instance, here is one that's called VR Time. And the avatar is a little more professional, a little more kind of uptight, I would say. But so that's an interesting thing. But then when I go into, for instance, to here in spaces, I feel a lot more playful, childlike, creative. So I found it really fascinating as I went on how different I felt in all these different kind of environments. And so again, when we look at exploring the topic of self-identity, image, representation, perspective, perception of reality even, and exploring different versions of the self, these virtual puppeteering, social, and broadcasting kind of apps really allow to play with you in terms of those elements, the fluidity of self, the environment, and the ability to manipulate, augment, and express agency over objects and self-image and environment within this space is amazing. So now I want to kind of take you through spaces in particular, and I want to show you each feature. So first, you might have noticed this t-shirt promoting this groundbreaking event. If I glance down at my wrist, you guys won't be able to see it, but I have a virtual watch on my wrist. And on the user interface, there's various options here. One of which allows me to take any image I bring into spaces and put a decal on my shirt. So for instance, if I picked up this image, and what I could do with this image, I could resize it just so that you guys can see it a little better. And I'm going to flip it around so you can see it. Here is a sketch of this cat. And what I wanted to bring to your attention is you can bring in a sketch, or you can bring in a photo, a painting, any kind of 2D image that you want. So that really opens up the possibilities for viewing client artwork right inside here in spaces. So if I put this down here. So the next thing I want to show you guys, if I take the sphere here, if I take the sphere in my hand, this sphere represents a 360 panoramic environment in spaces. So you can drop them right into the center of your table here and transform the surroundings. So let me show you guys. If I put this down here, let me see. Okay, now actually I'm transported into a representation of Van Gogh's bedroom. And it's really amazing. I could see his window, his bed, some paintings of his. So this is giving me a whole nother lighting, whole nother feeling altogether. Now, if I grab the Clint Museum and put it back down, we'll be transported back over there. Here we go, back in here. So there, it's amazing to me how strongly all these 360 panoramas evoke a sense of presence, and in particular, of being in a particular place, real or imaginal. So you can also use this marker pen here to draw or paint. Let me show you guys here. If I grab this marker pen, I could just start drawing in space. Let me change the color so you can see it a bit better. Now, if I just start drawing in space here, I can also change the color and size. So let me just change the color and maybe the size a bit. So just kind of draw in here free form. Maybe change a different color, change the size. And I'm just drawing right in space here. Now, if I put this down, I can actually just grab this spatial art and move it around. See, I can view it from all sides. And actually, if I wanted to, I can, let's see, pop right onto my avatar. So this is another way, as we were discussing with the broadcasting, puppeteering, and social VR apps, this is another way to augment your identity. And it's a very expressive and creative way to do so. So I'll just put this right down on my desk here, my table. And so 3D objects that were created in virtual modeling programs such as Google Blocks and Facebook sculpting program Medium can also be imported directly into your Faces VR space. So again, going back to kind of when I was showing you guys before with the VR equipment, those are actually 3D objects. So just to show you the difference between modeling and sculpting in VR, here's an example in Google Blocks of, let's see. So this is Google Blocks. So this is an example of VR modeling. So if I grab for you guys this astronaut here, you can see kind of like how it's all, there's a lot of faceting going on here. Very primitive shapes like spheres and cubes, and they could be manipulated, rotated, scaled, and moved around and put together. And that's basically how you get these models that can then be imported into this program Spaces. Here's another example, a little rocket ship and little astronauts on the moon here. And this is amazing. You can really colorize and shade and make very nuanced decorative aspects to these models and bring them right in. So again, just think about the possibilities with a client bringing their artwork in from a program like Google Blocks right inside here to be observed and to be contemplated therapeutically. Here's an example, just so that you can get contrast to Google Blocks. This is Oculus Medium, and in Medium, this is where you can manipulate virtual clay by pushing, pulling, and shaping form, which mirrors very much traditional sculpting. So if I show you guys this thinker here, as you can see, there's very nuanced pushing and pulling of forms, you know, very fine detail, sculptural. You can carve in and pull clay around just like you would in real life. So you can see a little more subtlety to the form here. So that's the difference between virtual modeling and virtual sculpting. And so you could bring these objects in and manipulate them, moving and scaling and rotate them however you would like to. Okay, so ultimately, as an art therapist, it dawns on you that Spaces really serves as a central creative hub where you can share photos, drawings, paintings, 360-degree environments, 3D models and sculptures, and create spatial art directly within the app with the marker pen that I showed you guys. So there is just so many possibilities. What an incredible tool, right? For us to utilize for creative therapeutic engagement. But the most powerful feature for me is the number one quality for a VR art app to have, which is multi-user shared VR space. In Spaces, you can have up to 4 people sharing the same virtual space, And here's a slide back here on the screen showing you two users that are exploring what are called Quillustrations. And Quill is Facebook's drawing, painting, and animation app. And here's another example of a scene created in Quill. What you could do is save a creation and then import the Quillustration into Spaces. And then once it's in Spaces, multiple people can inhabit and experience the creation together. Let me bring up an example of a Quillustration so you can get a sense of how powerful this feature is. So if I just hit my button here, let's scroll to the one, and it's going to load it in. And so I'm just actually going to grab this camera, guys, and I'm going to show you. Let's move it over here. Now we're going to move into the painting together. And you can kind of see here, for instance, with this cat, there's some subtle animation going on with its breathing. And you can see the butterflies outside the window that have some animation on as well. Now, all of this is painted freeform. Even the lighting, gradients of all the different colors. These are all brushstrokes. Now, if you can see the edge here of the painting, it's very, very painterly, right? Where it's left, the brushstrokes. And this artist, Goro Fujita, really made it very, very painterly. Now, if you look at the window, you can see some gradients out there. So basically, what I could do, which is incredible, is just walk up, and in spatially, I can really understand these forms and feel like I'm just present and immersed in someone's imagination, somebody's artwork. I'm actually inside of it and present with it, which is absolutely incredible. So again, this is Facebook Spaces. It's a Quillustration, something that you can bring up and have up to 4 people in here at a time, so a small group or with another client. Okay, I'm going to go back out of here, move the camera maybe back a bit where it was, and then so I'm going to exit out of here, and let's put this back in place. Okay, maybe up a little bit like that. Now I'm going to go back into my tools, and let's see if I could do this on the fly here. Go back to my desktop. Okay, so we're back in our slide deck here. And so basically, you know, I want to show you guys some more examples now of this really important component of VR, which is shared multiplayer space together. So in this example, this is called King Spray. It's a graffiti simulator. So there are a variety of environments to create, like this rooftop here, or a subway, train, so very realistic. You can have several individuals at once creating in there together, I believe up to 4, just like Spaces. What a fantastic tool, right? For sublimation. If you have a group of teens that may not respond to the traditional expressive tools of the studio, let them all jump in here, you know? So that's that example. So this one right here is Masterpiece VR. And in Masterpiece VR, you can both sculpt and paint with up to 4 VR users able to modify the art piece, and a total of 20 users in the room, in the space, that can be spectators or switched over to users at a time. So actually, this is a wonderful app that you can use to run quite a large group of an art therapy studio group. So here we go. Here is a studio share within the Oculus sculpting app that we mentioned before, Medium. And then in here, you could sculpt with another user. And this feature, like I said, it was called Studio Share. You can also take pictures together in here and save them. It's really powerful. So now I'm going to go a little bit more rapid fire here and continue to point out some of the other elements and VR art examples. So here, we're going to look at Playback. Now, Playback and sharing features are important so that art created can be saved, shared, and accessed easily. Here we see Tilt Brush, which allows you to save your spatial artwork in a file that can play back the entire creation spatially, brushstroke by brushstroke. This can be useful for an art therapist, right, to experience and gain insight to both process and product. And this is really an amazing experience where you're standing in space and just seeing this beautiful piece of artwork emerge around you. Here's another really cool example of playback. Now, this is an animation program called Anim VR. Now, here what you have is an actual editor where you have a timeline. You can actually record clips within VR and then edit them together right inside here and actually put together a mini movie and then export that out to be played back wherever, 2D, 3D. So it's incredible. You can actually record different scenes, different cuts, right? And then edit them together. Here's a similar example. Now this is called Tavori, this VR app. And this is a little bit more like modeling. So you'd have like characters such as this astronaut in there that you can almost via like a sand tray kind of idea manipulate and put together and puppeteer environments, objects, and subjects, and then put them all together. And so right here you can see that there's a recording going on, just like Anim VR. You can edit it together. So that's a really powerful feature. So once you have a piece of VR artwork made, you can actually share it. And once it's uploaded, you can view the work on your computer or smartphone by spatially moving on the screen and rotating and scaling it. Now, you can do this by sharing it on Google's website, Poly, or another website called Sketchfab. And here's actually on my table here, here's a Google Cardboard, well, a model of a Google Cardboard. And what these are is they're a very inexpensive VR headset that you can buy and use with your cell phone and basically your smartphone. So you can view art, you put your smartphone in, and actually it looks like a little viewfinder. And you can go to these websites and actually you can view the art. So for example, what I do with clients is I tell them they can view their artwork that they made on my high-end equipment in the office back at their house by using their Google Cardboard. I give it to them, and then they put their smartphone in, and then they view their artwork at home via one of these websites, which is very cool. So having an intuitive and simple user interface is important so that clients can relate the experience to traditional tools and get oriented quickly and be expressive. So here's an example of Tilt Brush's UI. It's very easy to use a brush in one hand and then a palette of other options in the other that you can rotate actually in space. So you'd be painting, as you can see in this example, you'd be painting with one hand, and then on your other hand, you just manipulate different options, say different brushes or different lighting or whatever you want to augment in the environment. So Oculus Medium also uses these strong visual and familiar cues to sculpt and choose options. So as you can see here, there's the same kind of metaphor. It's very intuitive to navigate. And so you hold a kind of a sprayer in one hand, almost like spraying clay out, almost like an airbrush. And then in the other hand, you can manipulate and move and scale things within the environment and have different options. So very, very intuitive. So VR art apps use the same gestural movements. So almost all these VR art apps, you use your triggers and you kind of open your hands gesturally like this to scale your VR art. And then you would just hold them and rotate them around or scale them up. So there's a lot almost throughout all these apps that I've shown you. It's the same intuitive metaphor of using your gestures to change and augment your art objects. So many of these VR apps also leverage traditional screen-based digital art advantages. And some of those are like iterative saves for variations on a theme, symmetry, undo, redo, layers, recording, and mixed media features. So these are some of the things that you would find in digital art on traditional screen-based programs. And they a lot of times carry over into the virtual realm. So I hope that gives you, in this first part, a glimpse into the power of immersive VR art making and what it offers art therapists. As you will see in the second part, I view VR as part of a nonlinear creative continuum that begins with an initial concept, symbolic equivalent, to realizing those expressions in fully formed, immersive, and interactive VR forms. You could stop at any point for successful therapeutic change and growth to occur. So the question, how can virtual reality art making be used therapeutically, isn't one that speaks to just the unique properties it affords, but also looks at it in the context of all other mediums. Of course, as we know, it's always a question of what medium artistic process serves the client at any given time. There are a myriad of factors that contribute to staying with one medium or not bringing the initial artistic content through the whole continuum. These include client resistance, time, space, energy, and resource constraints. So thank you for joining me virtually here today.